Hello all, welcome to Gelvin Valley, created by master map maker Wild Wild West. He may not accept that title, but I think it's an awesome map and hope you are still enjoying it just like I am. We are on Farm Sim 15, trying to cut a few logs here so we can earn some money and I can take care of my horrendous cash problem, because I am too stubborn to sell my crops at the moment, because I would like to be adequately paid for my crops. So I decided to cut the timber here, which I think is tall enough, fully grown. It says it was in the 4th growth cycle, and I think there was only 4 growth cycles. I'm going to be a little chagrined if I find out there is 5 growth cycles for these trees. For some reason I was thinking that I would have 4 logs from each tree. Well, turns out we're only getting 3. Oh my. Let me lift that up just a little bit more. But hey, we're in a situation where we need money, and I'm going to take what I can get. So if how would I got snapped close to the ground? So yeah, some of these are they are, oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. What is interesting to me is some of those stumps I can only cut off a little taller back there, but then others, especially here on the flat, I'm able to cut them almost flush with the ground, so there isn't much stump at all, and I can instead get more of it into log form. I don't know how much difference it makes, but anyway, the strategy I'm hoping to employ, I have this harvester for 2 hours. I was going to cut all the logs, get them all on the ground, and then I would haul them. I got 2 locations where the logs are, and I would haul them from the far location up to here and get them all ready to go, load them. And over here we're close to the sawmill, and because wood chips is an economy fill type, if you will, it means that the pricing of it will be depressed almost immediately, or at least within an hour. Prices change within an hour, so I want to be sure to sell as many of these trees at the mill as I can within an hour. Just like I'm hoping to do with the canola and barley that I have in storage. For both of those, the price has been wrecked by former bad behavior by myself. Well, not really, but it's just the way the game's algorithms work. And I don't know, a part of me, it wouldn't be that hard at all to write a simple script that totally undoes the game's mechanics. It gets rid of the effect of depressed prices. When you sell it after an hour, I could get rid of the recovery time. It really wouldn't be that hard at all. But there are some things I will try to mod and do, but I don't know. I don't want to do one of those. It's kind of like Wes has set this map up knowing, he's kind of depressed some prices, particularly in the area of silage. He knows that silage is a very lucrative crop. Well, you haven't seen me do silage in here yet, although we could. There are a couple clamps. Of course, it would be needed as part of the feed regimen for cattle in the dairy. So at some point I'll be making some, but in terms of selling it, at a BGA or that kind of thing, I don't think this map has a BGA. I could be mistaken on that. Or if it does, it's a much, much reduced rate at which you can sell the silage. And I think there's a farm that will buy the silage too, but Wes implemented a very clever trigger on some of those, and when the farm has taken all that it needs or wants to have, you can't sell anymore. You literally can't. It won't take it. You can try to dump it in there, but the trigger is set up to just disappear or go into the ground, if the farmer has sufficient silage. So he's tried to make it difficult to make just a lot of bank on silage like we can on the standard map or other mod maps. So, I could go in there, I could adjust that if I wanted to, but I don't know. That's something I don't want to do. Maybe, be interesting, if I could interview him sometime. I'd be curious to know, did you intend for people to use placeable areas to plant timber? I don't know. It was just, by all rights, I could bring a plow in here if I wanted, turn it into soil, and even plant a crop if I wished. But that's kind of what I did with the pasture. We don't have cattle right now. There's no dairy, so I figured their pasture is fair game. It's over by the main home for the players, so I figured no cows, it's extra land, we own it. Well, kind of. It has no owner. Maybe that's a more appropriate way to put it. Oops, I shifted to the side. I didn't mean to do that. Try to put this down. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh dear. I think I may need to do... Well, I guess that was a false alarm. I was thinking maybe See, it's a booger if you cut one of these, and occasionally this has happened to me with a tree processor, and it's probably because I just don't know what I'm doing. You'll cut on one of the trees, and somehow it will let go of the silly thing, and it won't defoliate it or whatever you call that. It just drops the log, and so then you gotta do it manually and all that jazz. So I'm just trying to do the best I can. I'm a poor farmer. The whole world's against. Or so it feels, being nearly 60 grand in the hole. So now I'm finally getting a little more room in here. We're almost at 6 a.m. and I still don't know just how long this is going to take me to extricate the trees out of here. All I know is I want some money, please. And I do even wonder, I don't remember how many logs can be held in the auto loader, but I kind of think I have a mod that has some different sizes. I've used them on another map. There's like this super long trailer that holds, I think it's not two layers, but two banks of logs. So in other words, these logs are all 8 meters long, and I think this trailer is something like 16 or 18 meters long. So you could just stack them in there 2 banks deep. And we're fairly close to the sawmill. You can see it on the little map down there. So I'm hoping I can load logs, zip over there, unload it, zip back over, load more, all within an hour, and maybe with a little luck, I'll be able to get most of them sold. Just to take advantage of the pricing, and hopefully with enough. I think the sawmill placeable is like 150,000, and let me get around here. So in order to do that, I need to clear, 200,000. Well, 210 to get there. And probably as I do these trees, I'm going to continue going more in the hole. So who knows where I'll end up. And yeah, boys, look at this. This is just thicker than the fur on a dog's back, which is good. I want to have lots of trees to sell, obviously. But I like to put in the sawmill so I can do further processing. This isn't something that was part of the original game, but there's this cool mod, the sawmill that I want to put in. I think I had an episode previously where I showed some modding work that I did to the map to make it so I could put it up here in this area. There's a wood chip storage, and anyway, it was sawmill created by Marhu, and just a brilliant little mod. Who knows? There was hundreds and thousands of us, that would have used it. Everybody except Russell, right? Because Russell doesn't log. He doesn't ever log. He may not even like trees. So I want to put this in there. It's a brilliant script. Not only does it have the model of it, you can place it, treat it as a placeable, or back in the day, you could also embed it in the map itself. It was a very adaptable script. So, but I seem to recall the price tag is 150-ish. So, yeah, I need to sell a lot of trees. But, I was starting to say a problem that, and I wouldn't blame the mod for this. It was just something that I discovered, and I think it was corrected in later versions. Whenever you have a 3D object in here that you create, maybe with the exception of these logs that we're doing, but if it's a bale, let's say it's a straw bale. Well, a square straw bale, the attributes of the bale itself, it's going to hold something like 2,000 liters, and it's going to identify it as straw or whatever. So it's the liters that I'm talking about. Straw is straw, whether it's in the windrow form or in a bale form. It doesn't want to pick that up. Straw will garner the same price, when you sell it at a bale sell or are able to sell it loose. And ditto with wood chips. So, you can sell a log in log form, or you can sell the wood chips kind of over at the composter place, or with this mod I was talking about, it'll cut the logs. You deliver it logs, and it will cut them and turn them into board pallets. Maybe something that we've all seen. But inside, the way the game works, inside the wood pallet is still wood chips. So in other words, whether you sell it as a log or sell it as a board pallet, you're really not earning any additional money for the value add. And that kind of bugged me. So I can't remember if I've mentioned that in here before or not. That is something that I dealt with in here. I went into the sawmill mod, and the sawmill mod includes the 3D objects, and its output is, the board pallets. And there's a way to tell it to have additional value. And so I did a little bit of research and said, if you turn raw timber into just, you know, I'm not sure, dimension lumber, maybe that's what you call it. How much is the value add? And I forget what it was. It gave me some value. You know, maybe it's, I don't know that it was quite double now that I think about it. Maybe it was 50%. So if you would get $1 for the wood chips, you know, in a simple log, maybe you'd get $1.50 if you had the dimension lumber from the log. So it would be adding a value multiplier to the board pallet for 1.5, so that when you put it in the trigger, yeah, it still recognizes it as wood chips, but it's going to give you 50% more value than it would if you sold it as just a plain old log. And that's to reward the player for the value add, if you will, or for the extra time, you know, that it takes. And it does take time. You know, it takes a lot of time, actually. You know, that's maybe something else that I could make a change on, would be to speed up. I think the mod works in, how is it, 5-minute increments? Let me see here. Kind of have this at the wrong angle. Oh, well, that's good. Let me snake that through and it'll put me back on the ground. Sorry. Yeah, and this, folks, is why you don't buy things from rental companies. It's because of people like me who use a beautiful machine like this and don't know what I'm doing. So, actually, let me see if I can continue sneaking. I'll just keep going this way. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to need to rent this maybe a couple more hours so I can get through all this. Unless I simply leave some of these trees and treat it like my bank. Because the reality is, when I dump all this timber over the air and the trigger, now I gotta wait for wood chips to get their value restored. And even though, you know, I've just been describing, there will be a multiplier on the value of the board pallets, it's still going to be somewhat depressed value because of what I'm trying to do here and selling a whole bunch of logs, you know, just to earn some money. So I'll do a little timber here and get some money, hopefully, and then I'll be back to farming. It isn't even 6 o'clock yet in the morning, and I'm over here cutting timber. And you know what? I think in the real timber industry, I think they tend to be in the woods fairly early. Maybe to just get work done. I should probably zoom out just a little bit so I can tell where I'm going. Once again, I hit the wrong button. So I don't know. Maybe someone can comment here. Are you a genius at running this machine? And what is the secret for making a decent log bank? I'm doing the best I know how, but well, and see, the other thing is I probably shouldn't be hauling them all the way back here, because driving backwards takes time, and I only have this machine for a short little while, and it's expensive, so I'm paying through the nose, losing profits. Maybe I better curtail how much driving I do with it. Anyway, I started on another episode, and I was going to share a place I went this summer that had some old harvesting, or well, old equipment, period. A wide variety of it, and incidentally, since I'm working on tree stuff, a significant, you may recall in a previous episode, I called it Antique Powerland. And each year they have a theme, and I do remember several years ago, theme was old logging equipment, and this particular site happens to have a number of museums, one of which is a logging museum, primarily Pacific Northwest. See, that just doesn't look normal. Pacific Northwest Logging Museum. So you see all the old equipment that they have, that the men of old, as it were, used in the woods, and some of it, there's technology, we all know, has changed a lot over time, including, in the woods. And when you see some of the old stuff, old ways of doing things, and I know in the Pacific Northwest here, for the old growth virgin timber back in the day, just beautiful trees that they had, and massive, the way these, oops, did I turn that off? I did, on accident. And it's just interesting to see how these men, would use crosscut saws, axes, to form the face of a tree, to cut it down, get it to go where they wanted. And these men must have been in terrific shape, of course, to do it. And then, I remember hearing stories of, some of the early salesmen of chainsaws, and, even today, a lot of us will face skepticism in adopting new technology. Some of us are quicker to adopt than others. Some just have to be on the bleeding edge. But I'm guessing that the old crosscut saw was very easily put away, as soon as these men could see how much time could be saved and how much effort was saved by adopting, of course, this, what we think of now as just a simple chainsaw, and let alone, a machine such as the one that I'm operating here at the moment, which would have been even just unheard of back then. And we've probably all seen the old grainy black and white pictures of what it was like in the woods back in the day, of just men working there, and the animals too. A lot of times you see a big old pile of logs being pulled by a bunch of mules, and often, it's pretty remarkable just how much, could be hauled creatively with just a couple animals. But anyway, a lot of this old equipment is, here, let's try this again, is on display and even used, at this place that I was mentioning, Antique Powerland, and brought it out, for the summer event that they have. And the summer event, by the way, happens in, I think it's the last weekend of July and the first weekend of August. Just 2 weekends. I don't know if it's Friday. It's definitely Saturday and Sunday. So really 4 days, when it comes right down to it. And wish it could be more. It'd be a little bit easier to go there. But for some of the things that they do, it has to be, at the right time of year. For example, they have threshing machines for wheat. Well, you got to give time for the wheat to grow, and it needs to be ripened, of course. So the only way to do that, of course, is having it later in July and early August. They also now, it had been a couple of years since I had been there, but they have over by the logging museum, not only do they show all the equipment. They have some fabulous displays set up to show kind of how the logging industry works and how it has worked for a long time. I know there's a television show, I don't know if it's still running. It was a few years ago, don't know which channel it was. I haven't seen everything on it. I've seen just bits and pieces of it, called Axemen. And I know when those reality programs are out, they're often criticized for the drama, or maybe some of it's fake or whatever, but whatever they may have done to make it have more entertainment value, the danger and the work that they're doing out there and the machinery they're using, of course, is all very, very real. And the style out here in the Pacific Northwest for logging tends to be they'll take a road, clear up on ridge tops, and they will set up what's called a high line or something like that. And actually, in later versions of Farming Sim, maybe as early as the one after this one, Farm Sim 17, or maybe it was 19, I forget. There's a few modders out there that are known for working on wood cutting and timber mods. Maybe FDR is one of them. Anyways, someone created a Highline mod, which is pretty cool. And the Highline, really, I mean, they set up these big poles up there that holds heavy cable, and on the cable is a machine that runs. I forget what it's called, but lots of cables running from it. The guys, someone would have already cut the timber, and they're down there setting choker cables around the logs, and this machine would winch the logs up, basically picking them up off the ground or only dragging them along, like getting one. I mean, they'd be brutally hard to pull around, you know, if it's just on the ground itself. So that's why they lift it up. And anyway, that's highline logging. These cables haul it up to the top of the ridge where someone's up there to process the timber, get it loaded on logging trailers and whatnot. They've done it this way for decades. Well, at Antique Powerland, they set up a display to show how this was done back in the day, and even in current. And they have logs that they, you know, work with the machines in there, and as well as many dozers, you know, which have been in the woods forever, assisting with logging and all sorts of things like that. They also had some unique machines that the old guys made back in the day. You know, we're all used to here in Farming Sim, you know, when it comes to taking out a stump, we have a stump grinder, and well, back in the day, there was no such thing as a stump grinder, and getting a stump out of the ground was a big endeavor. And, you know, if you didn't have machinery to do it, there often really wasn't a way to get the stump out. You know, maybe you could burn it. You know, I'm thinking of some of the early farmers that cleared the land and that kind of thing. Maybe you could burn it. Maybe if you had a license for dynamite, you could blast it out. Some of those kinds of things. But the old generation also had other ways of dealing with stumps, and I wish I could properly describe this thing. I think it was pulled behind a cat, so there was plenty of traction. Some of them were backed into the stump, but just using the principles of leverage, you know, in applying a little force for maximum effect. Not to necessarily pull it out by its roots or whatever, but to bust it up somehow and be able to deal with it. And it's, like I say, quite fascinating to see what they did back in the day. And, you know, it's, if you're like me, it's easy in our modern era to forget that the things that we have came about standing on the shoulders of giants and those that came before. You know, we think we're so smart and know so much, when it's the ones that came before us who, you know, they didn't have the power sources that we have, or whatever it is. You know, everything has improved over time, but they had to make do, you know, with what they had back in the day, which is less than what we have. So they worked on it, and oftentimes you learn new things just by reviewing and seeing how the generation that came before put the things together. So like I say, it's so, I know I've had that thought before, but I'm always humbled, you know, when you see just how sharp and smart the people that came before us really were, by the machines even that they built. Well, I'm now an hour in. Everybody probably heard the bell go off, and interestingly, you know, I usually set my timer at 32-ish minutes, so I know I'm at least hit the 30-minute mark, and there's always something that gets trimmed out or whatever. But I see I'm at 1 minute and 4, or excuse me, 1 hour and 4 minutes in here in terms of renting the machine here. So I don't know, maybe in another hour maybe I can get the rest of this cleared. This is in some ways going quicker than I thought, and in other ways taking forever and a day. Regardless, thank you once again for coming to watch little old videos here. Russell, I hope you enjoyed the tree work. I'm going to be here, I think, for a little while till we get this forest cleared out and in my pocket as money. So, hope you're having a great day. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.